And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension and everything and the drama.
How dare! Look at this! How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down.
If there was a time that nobody is calm in Vancouver from 4:30 Pacific last night, probably for the remainder of the weekend, this is the time that I think that people are absolutely not calm. But maybe others, right? Maybe we need to calm down. Who knows? Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast, a semi-emergency podcast, but because we do weekly anyway, but it's an emergency. So like everybody else, let's do it. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks. As subscriber, wherever you get your audio, as well as part of the Hockey Podcast Network, which we're still in process of getting everything set up. Sean, how are you?
Kind of jaded, kind of dead inside a little bit. But that's just holidays talk. What Braden Cooch is on the second line for the Team Canada World Junior. That's cool.
Yes, that is very yes.
Honestly, Kev, I'm doing all right. Weirdly, I had this sort of just acceptance that Quinn Hughes was going to be traded early yesterday, like late morning. I don't know why, but I just sort of had this sort of gut feeling that things were coming to a head, and I kind of went to accept. I was already in acceptance mode when the deal came down, so I was like, oh, okay. I was actually in the middle of work, so I didn't actually get the immediate he's being traded to Minnesota drip reporting that I hate, which is actually quite nice for me because I don't have to deal with that. Mm-hmm. The first thing I saw, I knew everything I needed to know. It was Quinn Hughes traded. He's going to Minnesota. He's going for Marco Rossi, Liam Ohgren, Zeev Buium, which is going to be great to hear Rick Dollywall try and say. And a first,
he tried to say this too,
and a first round pick. So, I mean, yeah, it's like before putting the cart before the horse and getting into my analysis of the whole trade. Yeah, it was just weird. I felt like it was coming, and so when it did happen, I was already like, oh, okay, time to move on. I think part of that too is just I'm just so over all the drama and the negativity that surrounds the Canucks right now that I'm just ready to move forward and try and focus on what the future looks like.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because we were kind of sort of in the middle of a discussion around, because there was a little bit of a debate. There was a significant debate about January 2024 Canuck talk, and sort of some of that conversation around that, all of that, which we're going to leave. We're not going to get into that because I have a funny feeling we're going to have another podcast that focuses on sort of those things later. But then it just, I'm getting ready for work, and then all of a sudden, that's the Friedman tweet, and I actually thought it was a bot. I was like, that's fake news. Quinn Hughes was being traded to Minnesota, and I thought it was a bot because I never really thought about Minnesota, I guess, when it was the conversation Although when I read that for the Friedman blog, he said there's probably going to be a wild card we're not aware of, and he was damn right. There was a wild card that we were not aware of, and we probably should have been ultimately considering the relationship that Jim Rutherford and Bill Guerin have. They did work together before, and then you also had, of course, everybody else forgot the Judd Brackett connection to Vancouver and Minnesota as well. So, yeah, that was part of the. That's kind of, I think that's what surprised me. I was surprised it was Minnesota. I wasn't surprised that Quinn Hughes was traded because I do think that this was going to happen at some point. I didn't know if this would happen this early or if this was going to drag on. I think, I think ultimately we're kind of moving all over the place here in some ways, but I think ultimately for Quinn Hughes, I think the best thing to happen to him is have this trade done before Christmas and get out of a situation that I just don't know. I don't think he was extremely happy. I mean, I'm just going to say this, Sean, as a member of the media. I don't want to criticize media members, but I also don't know if I am volunteering at the food bank that I want to be asked about my future in Vancouver on air. I think that is a complete. If that was me, I would be put off by that situation. I would not be happy about being that. That's not the time for me to have a conversation about my future. If we're in the dressing room in my office, you want to have a conversation about that, sure. But at a charity event, at volunteering at a food bank, really?
Like, I didn't even know that happened, Kev. Like, I think I've mentioned that I still watch as much Canucks hockey as I can. I still like consume some content here and there, but I'm not nearly in the depths of it that like a lot of people are. And so I had no idea that this was something, but it's also tracks with how I felt about the way things have been handled with the Canucks over the past 2 year and a half. Let's just say, like, ever since they got eliminated by Edmonton, the negativity in the market has been, in my opinion, just to a level that it tunes people out, turns people off, and doesn't help sell the product of Canucks content, doesn't help the product of the Canucks, doesn't help the Canucks keep players. I'm not saying that there isn't good reporting, good journalism, good sports media in Vancouver. There is. There's a lot of it, but there's a lot of there. The problem is the market is so, and you're seeing this in a lot of different markets too. But the sports media market right now is in transition, and it's saturated with so much noise of people talking about the same clickbait, rage bait topics over and over, and then trying to find a way to get that insider get an insider quote, catch the player off guard and get a juicy quote that they can run with and say that they got it, instead of just trying to just understand that they're humans, understand that it's a tough being a hockey player is a tough fucking job because you're playing against the best in the world. One mistake can ruin a play and a game, create a goal for or against, and then let alone the off ice stuff where you've got trying to manage all these personalities. It is tough, right? And the Canucks did, for lack of a better term, they failed at that with this core. And I cannot, with the way the market is after 2011, the Vancouver Canucks as a franchise have been to 3 Stanley Cup finals over 50 years now, which isn't good enough. And I can understand the frustration and the impatience in the market, but that doesn't to me that those are just excuses to for bad behavior. And I hate every time I try and bring this up with people that I think are going I have respect for. I get shot down and get told to basically ignore it or don't consume it. So basically being gaslit to not express my opinion. And it's like I'm not stopping. You know me, Kev. I'm not gonna stop. But I'm just it's frustrating. Like I said, I'm just so over the negativity and the hyper criticism that is in this market. And in some aspects I get it and it's understandable, but I think you need to find the right balance. And right now it's completely out. The balance is completely off in the market. And I think I've cut slow. If you go back through this season in particular and my takes, I think you've seen me slowly go into that the Canucks need a rebuild. And part of yesterday, before the Quinn Hughes trade even happened, I was already saying that it's time. It's time for a rebuild, and not necessarily even a deep rebuild, strip it down rebuild, and not because it's the right thing to do in terms of building a proper thing to do to build a team, because I still am not sold on that, but it's the proper thing to do for this market. There is too much baggage surrounding this Canucks core for them to be able to move forwards without this drama continuing. And for the Canucks to move forward and to build a contender and to build up confidence with this market, they need to start as fresh as you possibly can in this situation.
Yeah, I think I think that you're right in a number of different ways. I think that's I mean, we'll get into this a little bit more, but I think there's a lot of questions about a lot of players going forward here that you have to wonder now that Quinn Hughes is gone. Like, do they really want to be here now, knowing what the score is at this point? And I think it probably for a lot of these players, I think it's time for a fresh start, and just for a fresh look on things. And yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, Sean. I think that at times, we're getting to the age where in sports content where if you're not being negative, you're not an intelligent hockey analyst. If you don't believe in Team Tank, you are not an intelligent analyst. If you don't believe, like we can't think outside this box anymore. Like, you have to be part of this box to be part of kind of the cool kids, in my opinion. And I think we need some different type of perspective here. And I also think it's very fair. It's fair to be kind of bring both perspectives into the conversation and see where people are at. Like, I will never claim that I'm the smartest person in the room, because I'm absolutely not the smartest person in the room. But I think sometimes with some hockey content, I think some people feel like they need to be the smartest people in the room. And the people that I respect that produce the best content are absolutely do not proclaim to be the smartest people in the room. That's kind of what I would have to say.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. I think with the two markets that you and I are embedded in here, ingrained in. I'm a Canucks fan, but I grew up in Calgary. You grew up in Calgary, but you're now in Vancouver. Right now, it's tough. It's tough sledding because it's just the teams have been mid or bad for the most part for the past recent history here. And fans want more, and I get that, but I just think it's you need to find a way to take, instead of demanding things, I think you need to just be a little more inquisitive and curious. That's all I want. Yeah.
The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey. Experience them with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Well, as we know, Quinn Hughes is gone, and I thought, and it's sad and it's a reflective time. No lower than 3 or 4 in franchise history in terms of player, probably top 2. Would you say it's between? Is it between Bury and Hughes?
Well, you got the Sedins as 1-2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone
So-
saying the Sedins aren't 1-2 is just it's. I'm sorry, you're trying to make a hot take. That's not right. So yeah, I think in terms of pure talent, Bury's still ahead of Hughes. But just the way Hughes commanded the blue line in the offensive zone, no one there's especially I don't know if there's anyone that can touch him right now in the NHL, right? So yeah, 3 or 4 depending on how you rank it. And I'm a defense first guy, but I still think Bury there was just something special about Bury. And he's like in terms of talent, he's probably the most talented Canuck of all time was Bury. But you have to put in like duration, like career and everything. And now with that Quinn Hughes is gone after a shorter career, you can't. There's no way you can put him above the Sedins. So yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, I would say Bury was the fastest Canuck of all time. I would put Hughes as more cerebral. But yeah, an icon nonetheless. I mean, Bury, Sedins, Hughes, for sure. We as Sean mentioned, we didn't have a lot of playoff conversation, unfortunately, and through the Quinn Hughes era. But you look back on that series in Nashville, and I go back, and I believe it was game 4. They were down by 1. Quinn Hughes takes this up the ice like he's Steph Curry. Kind of completely he just takes over. He sets it up, and they go in, and Besser scores with 0.5 seconds left to tie the game. That was, to me, is what Quinn Hughes was. I mean, I unfortunately didn't see it a lot this year because I think just for a lot of different reasons, but he controlled the line, he controlled the play. I compare him to Connor McDavid in the way that he plays. It's very similar in terms of that sort of cerebralness, using his. I'm not saying he's the fastest skater. He's not as fast as McDavid, but he can use his skating ability to create opportunities for him. And yeah, I in another chat, someone mentioned I think it was a message from a Wild fan that suggested that, well, they traded a star for a rising star. Like, dude, this is at worst the second best defenseman. There is a legitimate argument that he's the best defenseman in the league. I will hear it. Even though I'm a big Cale Makar guy, I think you have to hear it. You got to give up something to get something, man. You know what I mean? You're just not like, sorry, this is Quinn Hughes. That does not arrive on the table at a 26-year-old in his prime. Yeah, you damn well have to give up something to get something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. In terms of like what I'll remember Hughes is just his cerebralness and his ability to just control the blue line in the offensive zone.
Yeah,
like there's no one can walk the line the way Quinn Hughes can. But it just in turn, like we were watching something special every time he had the puck between the top of the circles and the blue line. Like, it was insane.
Yeah. I will miss Oiler fans and Oilers media trying to twist themselves into whatever pretzel that they could to compare Evan Bouchard to Quinn Hughes. I will miss that. Well, let's find some analytical data that proves my point. There was no proof. Sorry. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Zip. Zero. Nada. Sorry. I'll miss that. But we move on, and let's focus on what the Canucks got. And quite honestly, just in terms of in general, I think that this trade is fantastic for both teams. You get Marco Rossi, who was sort of the guy, was the focus in the offseason for the Canucks in terms of a name that was talked about as a number 2 center. Unfortunately, he's injured now, but I don't know the status of his injury as we're talking about this, but he was signed to a new contract in the offseason. And right now, as I pull up his stats, he is... One second here. Good podcasting as the internet's going a little slow. He is...
Marco Rossi is 24 years old. He's undersized at 5'9", 192. And then, yeah, he's been injured since the beginning of November, but it sounded like he was ready to come back. I think Minnesota's next game is Sunday, or they had a game on Sunday that they were expecting him to play on. But yeah, he's got 4 goals and 13 points this season in 17 games. After coming off of a 24-goal and 60-point season in 82 games last year. So, he's a second-line center. You're going to need to surround him with some bigger bodies because he is a bit on the small side. But he's skilled, and I think if you can put him on with the right line mates, you will find production and success.
Yeah, he was averaging 18:06 in shift ice time this year, 18:15 last year, and in 23-24, 16:44. The 60 points was his highest and he's played, other than this year, he's played 82 games with the Minnesota Wild in 23-24 and at 24-25. Liam Ohgren is the other guy, and listening to some Minnesota podcasts, this is a guy that they were waiting to see burst out. He's 21 years old. He was also a first-round pick as well. And kind of a little bit, just off the top of my head, sort of reminding me a little bit of the Lucas Reichel situation where you're hoping that a new place helps him out. He's from Stockholm, Sweden, 21 years old. He was the 19th pick in the 2022 draft. No points in 18 games this year, 7 points in 46 games. It's a project. And
he's 21, right? I hate the word project when the guy is still young. He's still on his entry-level contract. Sorry for interrupting, Kev, but he's still young. Like, the Reichel one, he was already off his ELC. He's a little bit older and hadn't quite popped yet. Like, yes, Ohgren hasn't popped yet in the NHL, but he's still only 21 and still he came over at the end of the 23-24 season, joining the Minnesota Wild, and then spent last year split between the AHL and NHL, and then he'll get a shot with the Canucks, right? So he has one full North American pro season under his belt right now. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, let me use the word development and progress. This kind of, just as I think about this, sort of reminds me of Podkolzin going to Edmonton, where he needs to learn the NHL game. And Podkolzin has kind of figured out the way that he can play the NHL game. I think this is sort of the same thing from Ohgren in terms of, like, he needs to find his footing in the NHL game. And I think you see that a lot with some of the higher picks that come from Europe into the NHL. It's an adjustment to play. You're adjusting to life. And Sean, as you mentioned, 21 years old, you're new to a lot of things at 21 years old. I wonder if we see him in Abbotsford for a bit. I wouldn't be surprised. And because they need bodies down there for sure too. But yeah, I think this is a guy. I sort of see the Podkolzin track on this guy. I sort of see it the same way. He's not the same player, but the same trajectory is what I would say for that.
Yeah, again, Podkolzin was already off his ELC when the Canucks made that trade with Edmonton, and he's and that. So I think there should be some patience, but I think I expect them to play Ohgren up at the NHL level, see where he's at to start, and if he sticks, he sticks. If not, then yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they play him. He sees some Abbotsford Canucks time, but I think they'll have to show Rossi, Ohgren, and then as well as Zeev Buium, to the Vancouver crowd as much as possible to help sell the future here, because now that they are in full rebuild mode, as was said in the press release for this trade, you have to start showing the young players, as well as you have to find that right balance of developing them properly, as well as making sure that you're showing them showing the promise of what this team could be in the foreseeable future with these players.
Yeah. So the 2024 draft, in between the pick 7 and pick 12, there were 5 defensemen taken. Ottawa took Carter Yakimchuk from the Calgary Hitmen at number 7. The Flames took Zane Parekh at number 9, where we've had a number of conversations on him over the last little while. New Jersey takes Anton Silayev at 10. San Jose takes Sam Dickinson at 11. And this is my personal opinion. The guy that I think is going to turn out the best in this draft, and I've been saying this for a while, has been Zeev. I think he's got the intensity, the energy, the skating ability, the ability to quarterback a power play. And I think that there's just something kind of unique about his personality that intrigues me. I know that there's some people that have talked about questioning his defensive abilities, but again, he was drafted in 2024. He's not going to be, we're not looking at NHL elite defense yet. It's still a development, but I mean, this and the first round pick are the 2 prize pieces in this. And I was very intrigued that Vancouver got this guy. I am high on Buium. I actually predicted him to win the Calder, Sean. I went that far. I really believe in this guy.
Well, I
would be wrong.
I've been listening to you talk about him in terms of the Zane Parekh comparison in Calgary for a while. And then I did, once this trade happened, of course, you're doing some research and everything. You look back at some of what people were saying. Stephen Ellis of the Daily Faceoff wrote in the spring of this past year that there are people who think he was the best prospect in the NHL. So, and I know, and people are going to go off crazy about that, but remember that's not that anyone at that point, he hadn't played a game in the NHL. So you're looking at players who hadn't graduated to the NHL at that point. And if that's high praise, because that would have been including that would have been including people like making sure I don't get this year's draft prospects mixed in here, but that's just very high praise, honestly. And if that's the case, then I don't know what else you were expecting, because I know in these trades it's so easy to overvalue or expect the world to moon, like the lost treasure of Egypt, and like everything in return. But you're not going to get that, right? You're going to get a first round pick. You're always going to get one of those. The Canucks were wanting a young center in return. They got that in Marco Rossi. They were also wanting another young prospect, and I think that's where Liam Ohgren comes in. And they were going to want at least another stud prospect, and they got that in Zeev Buium. And again, this trade, yes, because especially the people who don't know the prospects, it's going to feel underwhelming. But the prospect, the key piece in this deal was Zeev Buium, and I don't think who else was interested? Like, was it going to be Simon Nemec out of New Jersey that could match up with Zeev Buium?
The other two names that were talked about in terms of conversation was Detroit and Simon Edvinsson, and Washington and Ryan Leonard. Washington was never going to give up Ryan Leonard. No, there's no damn way you're doing that. Like, if you're trading Ryan Leonard, you might as well pack your bags and leave the office. Like, Ryan Leonard is a legitimate stud. And Simon Edvinsson, I can't see Detroit Detroit would be stupid to do that too. Like, you weren't going to get that at this point of time. Like, there was no way you were getting Ryan Leonard. And I know that there were some people that were suggesting Nico Hischier out of New Jersey. New Jersey was not going to do that.
Well, the thing is if you're going into a rebuild, you're wanting players that are on in like 24 and under at the high, like in that age range. You want to get the team younger, and you want to have players that are going to be there long term, that you can build the new core around. And as good, Hischier was the Pettersson draft, and that's you're in your mid to late 20s at that point, which is, if you're in a contending window, perfect, absolutely perfect. But if you're in the rebuild, you want to build your core out from players in 20 to 24 age range, if not younger, type deal. So I don't think the Hischier talk was anything other than just people throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Nemec was kind of a shit to the wall, because why if you're Vancouver, why do you need a right shot? You need a left shot D if you're trading.
That's the other thing. Yes, you've got Wielander, you've got Mancini on the right side, you've got Hronek on the right side. I'm not sure how much longer he'll be around, but you're set up decently on the right side right now, let alone Tyler Myers, right?
Yeah.
Again, not sure how long Myers is someone I wouldn't be surprised might get moved. But on the left side, yeah, you have D. Petey, you've got Kirill Kudryavtsev, who I think people need to remember is a really good defensive prospect that the Canucks have down in the AHL. Sorminio is another good defense prospect, but if you're going to trade Quinn Hughes, you probably want a left shot in return if possible. And again, if Zeev Buium was the best NHL prospect, and drafted NHL prospect as of April 2025, May 2025, before the draft, again, I don't know how much more they could have gotten for Quinn Hughes. Does he have ways to go to become a top four, even a top pairing defenseman? Yes. He's in year one of his first full pro year after coming out of college. So there are going to be road bumps in the road here, but again, if you're going to trade arguably the best defenseman, if not top, we're talking about top two defensemen in the NHL. I don't know what realistically they could have gotten elsewhere that would have been comparable.
You're really unless you were fantasy booking, it just wasn't going to happen. It just really. I mean, the only other defenseman, and off the top of my head, and it wasn't going to happen because of the contention window, but the only other defenseman that I think it would have been worthy of a conversation would probably have been Sam Dickinson in San Jose. But again, San Jose is not in that window that they should be acquiring Quinn Hughes at this point. There's still a long way to go for them to get into a consistent contender window. I know that everybody is kind of celebrating them right now because of Macklin Celebrini, but they're not a playoff team at this point, and they still got work to do. There's still a lot of pieces that need to figure out over there for sure. But you're not trading Sam Dickinson.
And you were not going to trade Quinn Hughes within division either.
No, you weren't. No.
So yeah, like I think the only surprise I have was that he's still in the Western Conference, at least for now, right? So,
yeah.
But I think you got the best deal. Like, people need to give Zeev Buium specifically. Make sure that they're open to seeing how good this guy can be. Like, he's got top pair, like legit top pair potential. He's got legit number one defenseman potential. And if you're getting someone who has legit top pair, top number one defenseman potential in a deal where you're trading a number one defenseman, a Norris Trophy winner, yeah, like it's as good as it's as good as the Canucks could have gotten. But yes, anytime you trade a superstar, the return's going to be underwhelming. I get it. That's just the way it is. Unless it's a blockbuster superstar for superstar trade, if you're getting futures, it's going to be underwhelming.
Well, and we with the Flames going through this several times now, I have said this enough. Dan has said this, of course, in Fireside Chat. I think you have to stop. You have to lower your expectations in terms of value on these trades, because they're not always going to be the situation. It's not always going to be, you're not going to get the haul. Like, sometimes you can, but it's not often that happens. Like, sure, there's Brandon Carlo for Fraser Minton, but there's also Brad Marchand for what, a 2032 first round pick. You have to lower your expectations on a lot of these trades. I mean, I know that there's a lot of fantasy booking and there's a lot of blogs that say that what you should be able to get. I think some of that is a little bit unrealistic at times when you're making these trades. And we'll as we go forward here with Vancouver, if there's other moves, I think prepare to be underwhelmed on any other trade that happens, because it's just that these trades are often underwhelming. They are selling off for the future. That's just the reality of this.
The Canucks getting Zeev Buium, I think, is absolutely fantastic, because a lot of the contenders do not have top-end prospects at the caliber of Zeev Buium. And then your first-round pick you're getting for is going to be a late 20s at best. If you're like, unless you find a way to get someone desperate who's right on the bubble and then they miss. But for the most part, if you're trading to a contender, that's going to be a mid to late 20s first round pick at best, which is still good, but it's not the top end that everyone is clamoring for.
No. And you could flip it. I know that there's some people that are like, "How stop doing that, flipping these picks and all." I
don't see the Canucks flipping this pick.
I don't necessarily either, unless you get.
I know I've seen the people like that's what they've done in the past, but they also telegraphed that's what they were going to do in the past. When they made the Bo Horvat trade, there was talk that they wanted to use that to get to use that pick as a trade chip more than a draft to draft someone, and they did.
Yeah.
And then when they made the Miller trade, it was the most obvious thing ever that you knew that they were going to use that first round pick as quickly as they could to help improve that team, and they did. Now, like, you can argue if they improved the team making the move for Marcus Pettersson. I think they did. But like, my point is, like, you knew they were going to make that move. You knew that they were not going to trade JT Miller and get a first round pick and then just sit on it. No, you knew they were going to make that move. Now they said the R word. They said rebuild. They've actually talked about adding more draft capital in in everything that happened last night, that was actually discussed by Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin. I do not see them unless they get another sort of early 20s for stud prospect in a trade. They're not moving that pick.
No,
they are not moving that pick for immediate help. They know that they need to be they're in rebuild mode, and those picks are what they need. So I don't see them moving it. Like based off of everything that's come out and what they are saying. And I think it's one thing we need to start looking at what Jaron and Alvin say going forwards here. I think they've been dropping cookie crumbs as to what's going on for a while now, and not in the way that's creating the drama that this market has basically created from it. But if you digging past it a little bit, basically it sounded like about a year ago, they knew that re-signing Quinn Hughes was going to be tough. I think everything that went on with that in the locker room last year just killed any chance they had, unfortunately. And they knew that, which is why Rutherford made his comments, why he made those comments at the end of the year presser at the end of last season. And they talked about, and ever since then, there's been sort of little nuggets that they put out there about what they want to do. And I think we just start paying a little bit more attention to it. And it's not necessarily what's out there in the sort of the sports media ether about what's being speculated on or reported on. It's what those guys actually say. So, and I do think that like the locker room issues that basically killed this core last season, it sounds like they just were insurmountable, and everyone Tocchet left. They traded Miller, Tocchet left. Now they've traded Hughes. It sounds like everyone just wants a fresh start. So which is why you need to just start. It's time to build a new core, and the best way to build a new core is to draft and develop. So unless you're getting another Zeev Buium, another sort of in that age range, 20, 21 years old, already in the NHL, you're not trading that first round pick.
Yeah. I could see that. Let's just quickly touch on Minnesota here before we move on into the future of Vancouver. I think they probably have the best blue line in the Central Division. I do think they have the best goaltender in that division right now. That's not named until Connor Hellebuyck comes back, and that's Philip Gustafsson. My concern with Minnesota going forward is they still need two more forwards. They still need a center, which has been also a thing that has kind of hampered that franchise for years, that they haven't had that elite center, and they probably need one more scoring winger. And we'll touch on this. There may be one other Canuck that I could see ending up in Minnesota possibly at some point. But where do you put Minnesota in the Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota race?
I mean, Colorado and Dallas are way ahead right now, so they've got some catching up to do. But by the end of the season, it's going to be a 3-horse race in the Central, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Hughes, Makar, and Heiskanen in the same division.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I've seen this where it's like we need to go back to the 1 through 8 playoffs. No, I want to see these teams at full health earlier on in the playoffs and have a fucking war in the playoffs. I want to see that, because sometimes when you get to the conference final, everyone's dead. Everyone's hurt. The teams aren't playing at 100%. Yeah. I want to see these teams play at close to 100% in a 7-game series. Like that's it. Like I can see why people want that. They want to see the quote unquote the best teams in the conference finals and the Stanley Cup final. But sometimes the best entertainment is the first couple rounds because the players are healthier. And I want to see these top teams play against each other when they're healthy.
I mean, my big gripe is, unfortunately, we know that Minnesota is playing Dallas, and we can book that in mid-April. That's the only thing, right? But
I mean, it could, like, Dallas isn't that far behind. Dallas isn't that far behind Colorado. They're only 4 points back.
Yeah, and we should not count out Winnipeg. To be fair, once Connor Hellebuck is back, that team is going to be much better. They're fine. I mean, they're not great right now, but I still believe in Winnipeg. I may be the only one, but I still believe in Winnipeg. Like I believe in Joe Henry. But yeah, that Central Division is absolutely fascinating. So, I think now you've got a very interesting trade development happening here from really 4 teams: Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, and Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg will be trying to get something to push them into their situation as well. As we download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets. If your bet wins in partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, HOPNY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino or Resort, which is in Kansas. Pass-through or per wager tax money apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility. It varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expires in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms of responsible gaming resources, see ng.com/audio limited time offer. All right. Well, we are now into the rebuild mode of Vancouver, and where we go here is interesting. Maybe let's start with the other guy that was involved in the drama here. Let's just, for the hell of it, go here. What happens to EP40?
That'll be a tough deal to make. I think you hold on to him right now. That's a deal that, unless someone comes out looking for, I think Carolina was close last year, right? Unless someone comes out surprises you with a big offer, it's hold on and see if he can reclaim some of his former glory, and either he can be a part of the future, or he can, when he does that makes the return bigger. I do wonder, now that Quinn Hughes is gone, if we see PD take a hold of that power play. I do wonder, ever since whether it was Miller or Hughes, it just felt like Pettersson was not the focal point of the power play the way he should be. And I wonder if that becomes the case, if he can start producing the way we know he can. So, yeah,
Travis Green seemed to have the antidote for him in terms of creating the office, and it never got through him. Like, it just kind of changed over the years, especially when Miller was around the power play. It was like him that was sort of the leader / quarterback of the power play. Quinn Hughes was the quarterback, but sort of Miller was the offensive coordinator. I'm interested in seeing if what he becomes out of all of this, if he takes a step forward in terms of taking his game to another level. Because, I mean, you don't have a captain anymore, so you need a leader, right? So that I'm kind of intrigued by that part of it. The other part of this is the goaltending conversation, because now you have $13.5 million invested in goaltending, and you probably don't need that at this particular point. But at the same time, Sean, I don't know what people will be. I don't think this is necessarily, today is not the day to trade Thatcher Demko, because his value is at probably the lowest it will be. I mean, if I'm calling about goaltending, I might call and inquire about Thatcher Demko, but that's a gamble right now with his injury history, unfortunately. I would probably be calling more about Kevin Lankinen than Thatcher Demko, because we know Lankinen is healthy, but I don't think that Lankinen is an elite number one, get you to the cup kind of goalie yet. So that, I think we'll have to wait and see on Demko. I think I think the goaltending situation, I could see that happening in the offseason, not by trade deadline. Could be wrong.
No, that's an off-season move. But trading for a goalie in season is a desperation move. Sorry, Oilers fans. But it really is, honestly. And I'm not trying to actually take the piss out of the Oilers right now. They needed to make that move. But it really is, because like with goaltending, it's almost more about system than it is about the actual goaltender, as well as communication with the defenseman. So you need you need practice time, you need training camp to get that solidified down more often than not. So I think that's the other thing that people need to temper their expectations about, is how quickly this teardown happens. If the teardown, if this teardown happens fully as well. Like I said, I'm on team tear it down and start fresh, as fresh as possible. More so just to kind of reset the market and reset sort of the doom and gloom and the negativity in the market, because I think that'll help in the short term and long term of helping to build a contender. Even though I think it makes it harder to build up a contender. I think it's time. But it's not going to be overnight that they're able to tear this down. You've got, like, Demko does have his trade protection kicks in next year. Like, you have to remember, he's still on his new contract doesn't kick in until next year. So and I don't necessarily think that they need to trade Demko right now anyways. I think you still need to make sure that the young players that are in the organization still have a good place to play. You can't just, like, that's the problem with tear down rebounds and tanking, is that it creates bad habits and even more bad, and the morale goes bad and everything. That's part of the reason why it took the Oilers so long to rebuild, and how many first round picks it took them, is because they got comfortable with losing. You don't want that to happen, right? So that's why rebuilds are tough, and why tearing it down has so many pitfalls, right? But in terms of Demko and the goaltending, it's a slow play. It's a slow play. Unless you're getting a ridiculous return, there's no point. There's no need to rush it.
Yeah. And this is my belief, you should try to draft a goaltender in every draft if you can. It doesn't always happen, but I think a lot of teams have been getting into that trend, and I think that's a good trend to have. So yeah, that part, you're going to hear a lot of people howl about $13.5 million on goaltending. That will be dealt with in the
at this point. But at this point, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It doesn't matter. You're in a rebuild. You're not trying to spend to the cap to put together a contending team. At this point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it's not. That's the 13.5. The 14 million is not till next year.
Yeah.
The 13 million is not till next year anyways, right? So you've got Kevin Lankinen at 4.5. that's a good deal for what Kevin Lankinen brings. And then 8.5 for Demko for 3 years, or for 3 years starting next season. Again, that if he's at the top, that's really good, and it's not long term enough that it's going to hamper his trade value.
No.
Yes, he does have trade protection, but that's not going to stop him from making a deal once they're ready. But again, it's not something that you can. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they make a Demko trade before his trade protection kicks in with his new deal. So around the draft, but yeah, not in season. I think you work with him to get him back and playing as much as possible going through the rest of this season to prove that he can do that.
Yeah, and there will be suitors for him. And Lankinen at 4.5 is a good deal for a number one goalie on a rebuilding team.
And yeah, like I think you keep Lankinen at this point. It makes sense. You don't need to rush Tolopilo. He looks like he's got something. Ty Young looks okay down in Abbotsford. It's just unfortunately a bit of a mess down there as well. And they've got Medvedev, who they drafted this past year, playing for the London Knights. So they've got a good goalie pipeline going right now, and that's with them trading Artur Silovs to Pittsburgh this past offseason. So it's I think in terms of if you have Lankinen, and then if you do make the move do trade Demko, I do see a goaltender coming back on a short-term deal, because again, you want Tolopilo playing in the AHL for the rest of the season as much as possible.
Yeah, he's not NHL ready yet, unfortunately.
He's close, but he's not quite there yet.
The defenseman side, I could see Tyler Myers. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Myers is moved at the deadline, because you see a lot of defensemen moved at the trade deadline. And one team that I'm looking at right now, they don't have Chris Tanev is questionable, but I'm sure if he gets whatever body part is ailing him, he'll be fine. The Brandon Carlo injury is kind of that's a bit of a gut punch. I'm wondering about Toronto and Tyler Myers. I know he's 35, but that's actually a perfect age for Brad Treliving. Sorry, did I say that out loud? I wonder about Tyler Myers in Toronto. I could see that happening.
The one thing about Tyler Myers is he's pretty ingrained into the Vancouver and the Okanagan area. I could see him. He's got trade protection as well. I think I could see him sticking around and being the veteran old man of this rebuild, and which isn't a bad thing. But yeah, if he's willing to waive his trade protection, I could see teams being interested in him. Contending teams being interested in him as a 6'7" defenseman.
And Marcus Pettersson, 29. I could see that happening too. I don't know if there's a particular team, but
he signed through till 2031. So again, I think that to me that's an off-season move. But again, that's the whole thing, is you do need good veterans when you're doing a rebuild.
You do.
You shouldn't be blowing the bank on them. You shouldn't be trading for them. But if they're already on your roster and tied up on a decent deal, which he is at 5.5, I think it comes down to what is the team willing to pay for him?
Yeah. I will say though, I probably. I know that Anaheim is being used as a great example of a rebuild going really well, because look at the young stars. I think people forget that they brought in 4 key veterans here to help with where this team is. Radko Gudas, don't dismiss what Radko Gudas has done in Anaheim. He's just made that team play with a lot more brashness. Jacob Trouba, which a lot of people questioned that deal at the time. Chris Kreider and Alex Killorn, as well as Michael Granlund. There were 5 veterans that Pat Verbeek brought in to help kind of move this team forward. So in terms of Vancouver, there probably will be some veterans that end up coming here that probably will need a refresh or something, and that you need that to kind of help set the culture a little bit here. You can't just have a bunch of young kids playing hockey. You need to have you need habits developed. That was what happened in Edmonton too, is you had a sense of entitlement from some of these guys that were number one picks that they thought they were the shit. And you kind of need someone there to kick them in the ass.
Yep.
So Philip Roenick, I think will just that's interesting. I'll say this. Can I just quickly say this? There's a lot of people criticizing the Philip Roenick move to Detroit. I was not one of them then, and I will not be one of them now. I think that was a smart play because you got a guy, and I'll set this with the people that are saying that the management failed in building around Quinn Hughes. Well, if they failed in building around Quinn Hughes, and I could listen to that argument, one of the things that you absolutely needed for Quinn Hughes is to find a defense partner from him, and Axel Sandin Pekelika would not have been a defense partner for him at this particular point until now. So I will stand. I may be the only one in the island here, but the Philip Roenick deal was not a bad deal. And look back at what Ottawa did with Jacob Chychrun, because it was the same damn deal. And everybody applauded Ottawa for that move because they thought Ottawa was in their window, and they took him a couple of years, and everyone booed Vancouver for the Roenick deal. And they are absolutely dumb fucking wrong. I don't care what your name is. You are wrong. The Philip Roenick deal was not a bad deal. I will stand on my grave on that one.
Yeah. I think Roenick's going to stay for a little bit just because of the contract situation. No move. He's got trade protection. It's a longer term deal. I think the trade for Roenick made sense at the time, and in hindsight, makes more sense. I think yes, it didn't work out, but it made what they did made sense. Getting that partner for Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
If you're gonna nitpick anything from that season, it's trading Bo Horvat. I think it's signing Miller to the deal and trading Bo Horvat. I was okay with the Miller signing, but looking back, I think they picked the wrong guy. Had they picked Horvat, I do wonder how this court plays out instead of right where we're at right now. So
yeah, and I guess it's Besser and Garland, I guess, are the two others who just signed contracts. But I kind of wonder, is this the last Vancouver Minnesota deal that we see here? I wonder about Besser to Minnesota. I wonder if that still could be on the table. And that's a guy I kind of wonder, with Quinn Hughes gone, he turns 28, which, by the way, is not old, but I do understand where people are coming from. But it's not old. It's kind of old, I guess, in hockey terms now.
It's where you are in your contending window, right? If you're in a contending window, 28 is fine. It's perfect. The average age of an NHLer is 27. It's actually gotten older over the past few years. So if you're in a contending window, you're good. But if you're trying to rebuild, you want younger players. You want them in the early 20s is what it is. The problem with a lot of these guys is they're on long-term deals with trade protection. So it just makes it a tougher deal. Not saying it doesn't happen, but it just makes it a tougher deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. But I mean, I guess this is kind of where we're at right now with the Canucks is kind of looking to the future and seeing where it's at. And again, I think I think everybody, there's going to be a lot of content out there talking about how poorly they handled this trade deadline because they didn't tear it all down to the studs. It's literally impossible to do that at a trade deadline. It really is. I really think everybody needs to temper their expectations about what is going to happen going forward with the Canucks. It's not going to be this drastic, we're going to trade everybody. That's just not going to happen. Like, I would be very surprised if that happens. I think that this will have to go from now, even into off season, even into next year. It's just, it takes time to do what you if you want the team to tank, fine, but you cannot expect this. I think you have to be reasonable with your expectations here and not fantasy book, because I think that's where people get in trouble. That's me. All right. Anything else we need to talk about here? I think we kind of.
No, I think we're good, Kev. Like I said, it was a sad day yesterday, losing the captain and a guy who was supposed to be the face of the franchise. I do hope that they look. One thing I do actually, there is one thing. One thing I do hope they learn from this is to really, really think on who the leadership group is and who can be the captains and the rigors of that and everything that comes with that in such a, and I'll say it, toxic market that Vancouver can be. So I do think that weighed on Quinn Hughes a lot, and his quiet demeanor just didn't mesh with the demands of the market, and I don't blame him, but yeah, I don't know if his personality was the right fit for a captain in Vancouver.
He was 24 when this all hit, and you're dealing with an intense human being like JT Miller and a quieter guy like EP40 and an intense coach in Rick Tocchet. And I think that he just was in a no-win situation in terms of fixing whatever this was. And I think the other thing that nobody talks about, the loss of Ian Cole was massive to this organization. And I know that he had a really tough playoff lot that year, but man, was he a guy. Look, Jim Rutherford found ways to get Ian Cole onto his roster back in Pittsburgh. He's been a guy that Rutherford has loved over the years, but I just think I think the loss of Ian Cole in that dressing room, if there was tension between Pettersson and Miller, I think Ian Cole was one of the guys that was able to kind of say, okay, just calm down here. I think they totally miss Ian Cole. I really do.
Again, why you need good veteran leadership coming in, and why I don't know if Tyler Myers is going anywhere because of that. I don't know. Like, I think you'll see that veterans stick around here for that reason.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it more. How do we follow you?
I am Beardy Canucks 03 on X.
You can follow me and also you can follow Tyler at all social medias at TNOBLE. He is dealing with a snowstorm in northern BC. There are floods in the Fraser Valley still around there. So lots going on. The weather's crazy out here. Chris, great news. We should mention this officially. Our loud, opinionated cat is back. Bowie was found, so thank you for everyone that kind of helped with that situation, but you can follow him at SCHNEIDZ. Devin will be back, Devin D. Holmes Smith on Instagram, and I am KEVOLE on social media. Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks, and part of the Hockey Podcast Network. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.